Ki Jai. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Haribo. I think I need something like back here. I'm sinking back in. Oh, that's seat. Okay. I wonder if we'd be able to do the Jagannath. We don't need that, right?
Yeah, they're doing a recording.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Sure.
Hare Krishna. On behalf of His Grace Achyuta Chaitanya Prabhu and Manjari Mataji, we welcome you all to the second leg of the tour, which is Jagannath Puri. And with that note, we welcome with a big Haribol His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu and Nirakala Mataji. Haribol!
Vande Guru Nisha Bhaktan Ishanishavatarakam Taprakasham Satashakti Krishna Chaitanya Samdhikam Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Gaudadaya Pushpavanto Chitrashando Tamonudao. If you want to look it up, it's the first chapter of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yadadvaitam Brahmopanishadi Tarapyasya Tanuba Yat Mantaryami Purushaiti Sosham Shavibhabaha Shadaishvaryar Puno Yahi Bhagavan Saswayamayam Na Chaitanyat Krishna Jagati Paratattvam Padamiha Anarpita Charim Shirat Karuna Yavatirna Kalau Samarpayi Tumunato Jvalarasam Sabakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Duty Kadamba Sandipita Sadaraya Kandare Spurutava Sachinandana Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Ladini Shakti Rasma Ekat Manavapi Bhuvi Pura Deha Bhedam Katotao Chaitanya Tadvayam Chaikyam Aptam Radha Bhava Duty Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Sarupam Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidrisho Nayaiva Swadyo Yena Bhuta Madhurima Kidrisho Va Mariyaha Saukyam Chasyad Mad Anubhavata Kidrisham Beti Lobat Tadbhavadha Samajani Sachi Garba Sindho Harindu Sankarshana Karanato Ashai Payobdishai Cha Payobdishai Sheshascha Yasyam Sakalasa Nitya Nandakirama Sharanam Mamastu Mayati Te Vyapi Vaikunta Loke Punaishvarye Shri Chaturvyuha Madhye Rupam Yasyodhati Sankarshanakyam Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Ma Vishnu Jagat Karta Maya Yayat Srijatyada Tasyavatara Evayam. Oh wait, that's way too soon. We're still on Maya Janda Bharta Shangashrayanga Shete Shakshat Karanam Bodhi Madhye Yasyai Kamsa Shipumanadi Devas Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Yasyam Shamsha Garbodashayi Nabhyabjan Loka Sanghatanalam Lokashastu Sutikadamadatus Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Yasyam Sham Sham Shaparatma Kilanam Poshta Vishnur Bhakti Tuktabdishai Shani Bharta Yatkala Sopyanantas Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Mahavishnu Jagat Karta Maya Yatsrajatyada Tasyavatara Mebayam Advaita Charya Ishvara Advaitam Harina Dvaitad Bhaktyam Charya Shamshanad Tattavataram Ikshantam Advaita Charya Ashraye Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Jaya Jaya Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divya Vrindaranya Kalpadharmadha Srimad Ratna Gata Singhasanasto Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Deva Prishtali Bhisevamano Smarami Sriman Rasarasarambi Tvam Shivata Tatastita Karshan Venu Swaner Gopir Gopinata Shri Estunaha Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hey Teen Thakur Gauriyake Kariyachan in Atmasad, Eighteen Era Charan Vondon Tine Morana. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So we're honored to be here in your beautiful home, which is non-different from the spiritual world, as we can feel, because you've dedicated your lives to serving your spiritual master and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Holy Dham. And now today, here, Jagannath Puri is manifested in this home. Beautiful Rath cart. And Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra are here. Haribo. So Sri Chaitanya Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his latter pastimes in Jagannath Puri, which are described by Kaviraj Goswami to be mad performances. This was first seen in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taking initiation before he even came to Jagannath Puri. When he had accepted the initiation from Srila Ishvara Puri in Gaya, from Navadvip, Nimai Pandit went to Gaya to perform the Shraddha ceremony for his departed father, as is the custom. And they had met previously, had Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Ishvara Puri, but when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Srila Ishvara Puri in Gaya, he approached him for initiation. And Srila Ishvara Puri had an inkling that actually he was just acting as an agent in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because who can give initiation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And he performed that service, and it's described when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Nimai Pandit, came back to Navadvip. he was different. He had changed. In fact, the devotees in Navadvip, when they would see the deep intelligence of Nimai Pandit and how beautiful he was, he used to stop traffic. When people were walking along the street, they would stop and turn and say, he's so beautiful. Just everything about him, where he wore his dhoti and the style of his hair, which still the residents, the eternal residents of Navadvip, still pine for that time. That's why when we worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on our altars, it's in the mood of the residents of Navadvip. They don't want to see him as a sannyasi. They're still miffed about that. The hair cutting ceremony, they cry when they think about the locks of hair that the barber cut from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental head. This is absorption in the beautiful form of the Lord, so much so that one lives and breathes for thinking of the form of the Lord. And that was not different in Navadvip, only they had one lament, the great devotees in Navadvip, and that was evidenced when they would come together and pray that if only the Lord could make Nimai Pandit a devotee, then we'd really have a Sankirtan party. And of course, the irony of it is that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is his Leela when he goes to Gaya and he meets Srila Ishvara Puri and he takes the name from him and the mantra. He came back to Navadvip as a humble servant. When he left, he was challenging everyone in logic and grammar, defeating everyone twice, 3 times, twisting them in knots and enjoying it and walking away. And now he came and he just wanted to serve the Vaishnavas. He would carry things for them and ask, where can I do service for the Vaishnavas? And of course, now he became so obsessed with finding Krishna, which is also ironic because he's Krishna himself. But Mayamragam Dayite Taman Vadavad, Karabhajana Muni says in the Srimad Bhagavatam when he's describing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he set out to find a Krishna who is himself. But of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahiyanya, he's the combination of Radha and Krishna, and there's a reason behind that, which we just spoke about in the Sanskrit verse, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Haladini Shakti Rasmade Katmanav Api Bhuvi Pura Deha Beda Bedam Gatau Tau Chaitanyakyam Prakanamat Tadvayam Chaikyamaptam Radha Bhava Duti Suvalitam Nami Krishna Sarup. We'll try it again. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Haladini Shakti Rasmat Ekat Manav Api Bhuvi Pura Deha Bedam Gatau Tau Chaitanyakyam Prakatanamadana Tadvayam Chaikyamaptam Radha Bhava Duti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Sarupam. Radha and Krishna are 2, so they can enjoy transcendental pastimes. Rasa happens with 2, not 1. There has to be variety. The variety comes, the original varieties in Radha and Krishna. Also, although the Supreme is 1, he's separated himself eternally as Radha and Krishna to enjoy. As the Supreme Lord is Ananda Mayo Vyasat. He's the supreme enjoyer. However, he comes back together again. Radha and Krishna combine. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, actually Krishna, is the origin of this because he's bewildered by something. How can God be bewildered? Everyone's bewildered but him, but he becomes bewildered by Madan Mohan Mohini, the bewilderer of the bewilderer of Cupid. Madan Mohan means you become attracted to the form of Madan Mohan, and then you're no longer attracted to the so-called beauty of the material world, which comes from attraction between the opposite sexes. And Krishna, he's bewildered or attracted by Srimati Radharani. So much so, and he notices that her attraction is so strong and her love for him is so strong. And she tastes the greatness of his love so much, and she's so joyful for it, and she enjoys so much that he realizes that she enjoys more than I do. And how can that be? Because Krishna's the supreme enjoyer. So how can someone else enjoy more than him? So as the supreme enjoyer, he decides to come as Srimati Radharani and himself combined. So they come together again so that Krishna can experience the love, the greatness of Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidisho Veti Lobat. The Mahima, how great is the love of Srimati Radharani? He wants to know. Next line. Shri Radhaya Shov Vamanai Swadyo Yena Bhuta Madhurima. Then there's a Madhurya, there's a sweetness of her love. Then third line. Saukyam Chasya. Then the happiness she feels when she sees him. She's happier than he is. So that's not right, because Krishna is the supreme controller. So he combines again. What was two eternally has now joined in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come to this world. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu conceals his identity in Navadvip, but then he starts to reveal the extent of his devotion when he gets initiated by Srila Ishvara Puri, comes back to Navadvip Dham. And after some time in Navadvip Dham, he decides that he's going to take sannyas. Of course, there's an apparent precursor to that in which he's teaching many students, and the students one day find that he's chanting the names of the gopis and actually chastising Krishna in his ecstasy. And his students become indignant and think they know more than he does. And how can you do this? How can you blaspheme like that? And Mahaprabhu, in his ecstasy and trance, chases after them, or at least the one who criticized him, with a stick. And that one went and made a complaint to the greater body of young Brahmins and said, the Nimai Pandit's gone crazy, actually. They start to detect that in him, some kind of madness. And then when he chases a Brahmin, they say, this is not right. He shouldn't ever try to threaten a Brahmana. And next time we'll retaliate against him if he does something like this. So on this pretext, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decides he'll take sannyas. And only a few people know about it. He only tells 5 people. And early in the morning, he gets ready to go, to leave. Actually, it's during the Brahma Muhurta hour. He feels the movement of air within his nostril has changed, because the sandhya is, the night is changing into morning. It's that sandhya period, and you can feel the difference of your breath in your nostril. So he felt that, and now it's time for me to go. So he got up in the middle of the night. Shachimata was sitting at the door of their house, almost like a statue. Inconceivable how her only son, her life and soul, was going off to take sannyas. Of course, his elder brother, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's elder brother, had taken sannyas. And even the father of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took him out of school because he didn't want him to learn too much. He said he'll become like his brother and go off if he gets too much knowledge. So just stay at home, don't go to school. And then he got into all kinds of mischief. And one day when Shachimata was challenging, why are you doing all these things? And he said, well, you don't send me to school, what do you expect? I don't know any better. And the neighbor said, which enemy told you to take him out of school? And Jagannath Mishra had to defend himself. He said, well, after all, everything's supplied by the Supreme Personality of God. What's their need for any study? Kids, cover your ears. And so And they reasoned with him, no, actually, you should allow him to go to school. And otherwise, you're depriving him. So he allowed him to go back to school. Nonetheless, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had his mission. It's one of the opulences of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to walk away from any situation that anyone else would be completely attached to. He was the hero of Navadvip. He had already proved himself, defeating Keshava Kashmiri. And he was a cynosure of everyone's eyes in Navadvip. His wife was none other than the goddess of fortune. There's no better mother in the three worlds, except Sachimata. And he just walked away and took sannyas. The other reason was to show mercy to all the souls of the world. So he would move about and teach about the process of Krishna consciousness so everyone could take it up. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left from his house and took sannyas, and then he endeavored to go to Vrindavan, and he was misled by Nityananda Prabhu. And he had a meeting with the devotees in Navadvip, and his mother was there. They decided that he would go to Jagannath Puri, because Jagannath Puri and Navadvip, they reasoned, are like two rooms in the same house, just like this place. We've got Jagannath Puri and over there Navadvip. And that way, she said, Sachimata, who was disconsolate that he had taken sannyas, said, we can get information from Jagannath Puri, and the devotees from here can go there on a regular basis to see you and bring back information. And so Mahaprabhu went off to Jagannath Puri, and as we know, he arrived there and met Sarvabhaumacharya, who became his devotee. And the latter pastimes of Lord Chaitanya take place there in Jagannath Puri. Integral to the Leela in Jagannath Puri is his intimate association with Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit is, as we say, the manifestation of the Lord's internal potency, Srimati Radharani. And so some devotees like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you'll notice when you go to Mayapur, they worship Gaur Gadadhar, because Gadadhar Pandit is the manifestation of Srimati Radharani and Gaur Leela. And in the pastimes in Jagannath Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sits and listens to the readings of the Srimad Bhagavatam from the mouth of Sri Gadadhar Pandit and relishes it again and again. It's mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had tried to read the Srimad Bhagavatam himself, but he became so emotional upon reading it that his tears washed away the markings on the page again and again. And so he would listen simply to Gadadhar Pandit reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then, of course, in Jagannath Puri is the Tota Gopinath temple, where in the Tota, or the garden, where they were hearing Srimad Bhagavatam together, they discovered just in the sand underneath the deity of Gopinath, and they excavated the deity. When Gadadhar Pandit was older, the deity came down on one knee in order to facilitate him being able to worship the deity and so forth. And that's one of the prime places of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Jagannath Puri, where he would spend his time hearing Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit was a simple devotee who was pure from the very beginning of his childhood, and he joined Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as most intimate associate in Vrindavan. When Mahaprabhu had come back from Gaya, he had been diagnosed by some as having some kind of madness, as they thought it was imbalance of the airs within the body. they translate in the Chaitanya Bhagavata as a wind disorder. Means that Kapapitavayu is out of order. And they tried all kinds of cures. Some said you should rub his head with Shiva ghee. And others had, like everyone, everyone's a doctor. Everyone has some cure to cure him of this. And some said you should tie him up because he was acting mad. And this was, as I started, that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would take an initiation and he came back to his guru later and he said, have you given me the right mantra? Because he said, the mantra you gave me has made me crazy. When I hear it, I'm not responsible for my activities anymore. I can't control myself. I become like a mad person. So am I mad? Is this the right thing? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard from the lips of his spiritual master, Srila Ishwar Puri, a verse that Kaviraj Goswami says is the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Evam pratasva priyanama kirtya jatana rago jitachuta ucher hasatyato rautiti rauti gayati unmadavam nrittati lokabayaha. Which means that when you chant Hare Krishna, then there's a way in which you develop an attachment for it because it's Krishna. One time when Ramdas Swami was here and he had picked names for many of you, and I was kind of amazed of how quickly he was able to pick them, and every one of them was so beautiful. And I was commenting to him afterwards. I said, those names are so beautiful that he picked, and he goes, they're all Krishna's names. And so the verse says, Evam vratasva priyanama kirtya, that the name becomes dear to the devotee by chanting, that it becomes the most dear thing in his life, just wants to hear the name. And then from chanting the name, then dhruta chitta uchar, the heart begins to melt, soft-hearted one becomes. And then the heart becomes so fluid that the acharyas say in their commentaries on this verse that the heart of the pure devotee whose heart has melted is like a river of rose apple juice flowing. And then the person is no longer concerned with social convention. He begins to act like a mad person. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was like this after he took initiation, and his guru said, very good. You've actually attained the perfection of life. So in Jagannath Puri, the madness continued. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would hear from Gadadhar Pandit, and the line of devotees that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had brought to his Leela, for instance, Pundarik Vijayanidhi. Pundarik Vijayanidhi was Vrishabhanu Maharaj in Krishna Leela. And he was anticipated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who kept calling out for him, saying, oh, my father, my father. In the sense that Srimati Radharani's father is there, Pundarik Vijayanidhi, the devotees were wondering, who is this? Mahaprabhu just kept calling out for him. And they hadn't met him yet. One of the devotees knew who Pundarik Vijayanidhi was. Of course, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met him, he embraced him and honored him. And Gadadhar Pandit didn't know about him, hadn't met him, but he was known to Mukunda, the famous kirtan singer. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu marked him as the great singer from Vrindavan. He used to sing beautiful tunes and would move the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the devotees. And so Mukunda asked Gadadhar Pandit, do you want to meet a pure Vaishnav? And Mukunda, being simple and pure, said, of course, it's the goal of life. The goal of life is to meet pure Vaishnavas. In fact, the Shastra says no one ever has made advancement in spiritual life, what to speak of, has attained the perfection of spiritual life without connecting to a Vaishnav. Only by becoming the servant of the servant of the servant. Das, 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 anudasa. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu identified himself, he said that I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the protector of the gopis. And so Gadadhar went with Mukunda to meet Pundarik Vijayanidhi, and Pundarik was in a very ornate home. When he went into the room with Mukunda, Gadadhar saw that Pundarik Vijayanidhi was sitting on a palanquin, being served, fanned. There were cool drinks. He had a hookah. His hair was very beautiful, and it was like nice perfumed oil in the hair. Everything, his clothing, silk, everything in his home was the best quality you could get anywhere in the world. And he looked like the antithesis of a Vaishnava. Simple Gadadhar Pandit thought, this is your Vaishnava? And detecting that Gadadhar had some doubt, Mukunda then recited a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, I just alluded to that verse in the last, when we were in Vrindavan a few minutes ago. O Bhakiyam Stana Kala Kutam Jigamsaya Payad Apyasadvi Lebegatim Datruchitam Tatonyam Kamva Dayalum Sharadam Rajainma. It's about Putana, who is named Baki. Baki means the sister of Bakasura. How'd you like to be the sister of Bakasura? And we talked about that verse just a few minutes ago, about how Uddhava was saying that who would go anywhere else besides to Krishna and take shelter, because he gave liberation to Putana, who came to kill him. So why would you look anywhere else for shelter? So when Mukunda recited that verse, he just said it out loud in the room. Pundarik Vijayanidhi's internal love of God awoke, and he went into a mad performance for 9 hours. First, he thrashed everything in the room, and nobody could hold him down. Nothing was spared. His hair was haywire. His pottery and all the fancy decorations in the room smashed. The bedstead, everything, his Brahmin's thread broken. Everything scattered in every direction, and finally he went into an unconscious samadhi, or a samadhi in which he appeared to be unconscious. And at that time, Gadadhar looked and he thought, uh-oh, I just offended a Vaishnava. One should be very careful about to not offend Vaishnavas. We know from the story of Dhruva Maharaj that Dhruva Maharaj's stepmother had offended Dhruva Maharaj, and later on he became the great Dhruva Maharaj. And at that time, his mother got his stepmother got the reaction for that. So even if someone's going to become a great devotee in the future, or a devotee, you should be careful, because if you offend them and then they become a great Vaishnava, you still get the reaction. So it's one of the tenets of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings to be very careful to not offend Vaishnavas. So Gadadhar Pandit was thinking, in my mind, I doubted this person, and he's the topmost Paramahamsa devotee. So therefore, he told Mukunda on the way back to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's abode, I want to take initiation from him. This will, of course, he just wanted to take shelter because he was such an advanced Vaishnava, but he also wanted to alleviate his offense. So he said, I will take initiation from Pundarik Vijayanidhi. And they came back and told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, yes, do it immediately. So he had taken this initiation from Pundarik Vijayanidhi, had Gadadhar Pandit. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, so his dealings with Gadadhar Pandit are especially sweet. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had left Jagannath Puri, Gadadhar Pandit followed him. But he wasn't to follow him because he had accepted Kshetra Sannyas, which means he had vowed to stay in Jagannath Puri for the rest of his life and take care of Tota Gopinath. And so as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is leaving, Then he noticed that Gadadhar was following him, and he said, no, you have to stay here. Don't follow me. You can't come with me. He said, I'm not coming with you. I'm just walking in the same direction. And finally, when they got to the river, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to get on a boat, he said, that's it. Enough of this. You have to go back. Gadadhar Pandit's mood was, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, you have taken Kshetra Sannyas, you have to stay there. Gadadhar Pandit said, to hell with my Kshetra Sannyas. He said, being with you, this is the best position. He said, that's like being in Vrindavan. I don't want to go anywhere else. I just want to be with you. Nonetheless, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got on the boat and left him, and Gadadhar Pandit fainted. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had just intimate dealings with his devotees in Jagannath Puri. They used to come every year from Navadvip all the way to Puri. They'd stay for 3 months in Jagannath Puri with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's what they looked forward to every year. They would pack up whatever they needed. Shivananda Sain was their Radhakripa. Radhakripa Prabhu arranges all the rooms, all the buses, make sure everyone's on, make sure everyone's fed, everyone gets on, come back in time. And that's what Shivananda Sain Prabhu did. He arranged for everything, including the boat rides and where the devotees were going to stay on their way to Jagannath Puri, and paid the tolls, make sure that everything was prepaid. And one day, as they were traveling to Jagannath Puri, a dog came. The devotees are walking along in a group, and a dog came up. And I was like, and Shivananda Sain said, he's with us. He's part of our party. And from this day forward, you should make sure you feed him. He told there was somebody there who was in charge of the kitchen, cooking as they traveled, and said, give this dog what he needs every day. You feed him his rice, cook extra for him. He's Bengal. So even the dogs eat rice. So every day the cook would make something. Shivananda Sain was out of station because he had to go ahead to take care, pay the tolls. And one day, while Shivananda Sain was away, the cook and everybody else got preoccupied and they forgot to feed the dog. And when Shivananda Sain came back and he said, where's the dog? And they said, oh, where is he? We forgot to feed him. And they couldn't find the dog anywhere. So Shivananda Sain was very concerned, and he became a little morose that they had lost one member of the party that they hadn't taken care of. And because Shivananda Sain was feeling morose, everyone else was feeling glum also. But they went on nonetheless. What else would they do? To Jagannath Puri. And when they got there, they found that the dog was already there with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was sitting in front of him, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was honoring some Jagannath Prasad, and he was taking the green coconut pulp from his plate, just like we had this morning, and he was throwing it to the dog. And then Mahaprabhu was saying, chant Hare Krishna, chant Hare Rama, and the dog, rah, rah, rah. Like, Hare Rama. And so Kaviraj Goswami writes that, and the next day, the dog was nowhere to be found, and everyone could understand he went back to Godhead. This was the spirit of the devotees, that everyone's part of this party. Dog comes in, he's with us. This happens. Dogs like packs, actually. And when they see devotees, we're doing our Govardhan Parikram. I think maybe we even have a video of it, because the last Parikram we did, Mukaravinda had one of those fancy cradles. You know, he was walking backwards the whole time. And he took video of the Parikram, us going around in a pack. And a dog joined us. So he said, you come on, you come with him. And we bought him crackers. And when we'd go through different villages or different areas around Govardhan Hill, the other dogs, they claim those places, because non-domesticated dogs become very territorial. Well, all dogs do. But especially they're vicious when they see other dogs walk through their turf. And so they come out and they start barking, and we all just say, nope, he's with us, sorry. You know, you can't touch him. And so that's one of the secrets of devotional service. Be loyal like a dog and just join in with the Vaishnavas. And then wherever you go, people will bark at you and there'll be all kinds of difficulty. But as long as you're with the pack of devotees and traveling with them, then they'll all stand up for you and protect you. So in Jagannath Puri, as the devotees would come every year, they would bring him prasadam, especially Damayanti, who was the sister of Raghava Pandit. She cooked enough so that Mahaprabhu could have some of her cooking every day for the whole year. And they brought it in special bags. Every preparation was very meticulously packaged. And there are many special preparations that you could go on for pages describing, and Kaviraj Goswami does for as far as possible, describing what were in those bags that they would bring to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Puri. And they became celebrated as Raghavera Jali, or the bags of Raghava. They were cooked by Damayanti, and then they would have bearers bring those bags all the way from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri. And Mahaprabhu relished the cooking of Damayanti because she thought of him as an ordinary person, and she made all kinds of healthy preparations, some things to overcome indigestion and things like that. And Mahaprabhu would take it every day. So in the later pastimes in Jagannath Puri, after Advaita Acharya had sent a note to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course you know that Advaita Acharya is Mahavishnu and Sadashiva combined. It's mentioned Mahavishnu Jagat Karta Maya Yasudratida Tasyavatara Evayam Advaita Acharya Ishvara. He's the Ishvara. Ishvara means controller of the material world. So he's Mahavishnu. He has some connection with the material world. He glances over it. So he notices it. It's going on. He has compassion for the living entities in the material world, so much so that he's the one who called Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the first place. We'll go to that place in Navadvip and sit down and have kirtan. It's really ecstatic. The people there, when they hear us singing, Doyal Nitai Chaitanya Boli, they all come over and crowd around and start jumping up and down. And it's a really beautiful little place where Advaita Acharya used to sit on the Ganga, right next to the Ganga. It's moved a little bit from where his house is, because rivers move. And every day, he would make loud cries, asking Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come to the world to help the fallen conditioned souls. He found a verse in the Shastra that said, if you offer the Lord a little tulsi leaf and Ganga Jal, then he becomes obligated. He can't refuse you. So he said, I'm going to use this. So he'd offer a little Ganga Jal and tulsi leaf and please come, please come. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and later he said, I could hear your loud cries. He called Advaita Acharya Nada. So Nada, you woke me up and called me here. Especially he was saying that when Advaita Acharya in Navadvip had pretended to be a Mayavadi because he didn't like that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu respected him so much. He was senior in years by a lot, Advaita Acharya, but he knew that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he wanted to worship him, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was showing respect to Advaita Acharya, and Advaita Acharya didn't like that. So one day, for his Bhagavad Gita class that he held every day in his courtyard, and you can see that place too, he started speaking about the fact that the ultimate goal of life is attained through jnana, not bhakti. And when some devotees heard him, they ran to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said, Advaita Acharya is saying that jnana is the ultimate goal of life, not bhakti. The Yoga Vashishta. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to that courtyard and he said, what are you saying? You called me here. You woke me up. I was sleeping. And then your loud cries, you called me, and now you're preaching this Mayavad. And Advaita Acharya said, yes, jnana is higher than bhakti. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became furious, and he grabbed Advaita Acharya and pulled him off to Vyasasana. And he said, say that bhakti is higher than Gyan. And Advaita Acharya said, Gyan is higher than bhakti. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became furious and he started beating him. And Sita Thakurani, the wife of Advaita Acharya, came running out. Wait, stop, he's an old man, don't hurt him. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then discovered that here I am beating Advaita Acharya. And Advaita Acharya started to smile and then dance. And he said, now it has been proved that you are my master, I'm your servant. Haribol. So Advaita Acharya had called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come to the world. And now he sent a note. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there in Jagannath Puri, he received a note. And it said something like, now there's enough rice in the market. Everybody's satisfied. No more need. Everyone's full. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became a little thoughtful, and he said, yes, he has spoken, and Advaita Acharya has spoken. And Swarup Damodar said, what does it mean? Of course, he knew what it meant. But then when they considered it, the contents of the note, they became a little serious, realizing that it meant something esoteric between Advaita Acharya and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not stay in his Leela forever there. And just after that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood in Jagannath Puri completely changed. And now, as I mentioned in the beginning, his Leela became like a Leela of madness. So he kept himself away from the general public for most of the time and stayed in the room that we now call the Gambhira, then and now. That place you can apparently see in Jagannath Puri, although Madhavananda said, actually, there's another place. Don't tell anybody. But it's even deeper than that room where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to stay. But the idea was a small room. And Gambhira means deep. He went deep into the internal practice of devotional service. And what was that practice? Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy stayed with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they would recite verses from Jayadev Goswami and some of the very esoteric writings about Krishna's Leela in Vrindavan. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would again and again taste the rasa of those verses, and he would go into a kind of divine madness and in separation from Krishna. And in this small room that had no way to get out, every night Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would get out somehow or other. And of course, we know the pastime when he escaped from that room, and then he was walking down the beach, and he thought that the ocean was the Jamuna, so he threw himself in the ocean. He was floating for a long time towards Konark, where this temple of the sun is. And all the devotees found the room empty. They couldn't imagine how he had gotten out, and he was nowhere to be found. They looked everywhere in Jagannath Puri, and they couldn't find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Walking down the beach, Swarup Damodar and a couple other devotees then came across a fisherman. And the fisherman was in an agitated state. He said that while I was fishing in a lonely place, I caught this huge corpse with my net. I pulled it in. And as soon as I touched it, then a ghost entered my body. He said, usually in those lonely places, because I'm there killing fish, I chant the Nrsimha mantra for my protection. But now when I chant the Nrsimha mantra, my condition, being ghostly haunted, got worse. And he said, I'm going to find an exorcist to get rid of this ghost from my body. And Swarup Damodar said, I'm an exorcist. I'll cure you. And then he slapped him 3 times. And he said a few mantras. He said, now the ghost is gone. He said, where is the corpse? And he said, why do you want to know? He said, we're looking for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, it's not him. The fisherman said, it's not him. I've seen Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's not him. This is a very distorted form, deformed body, limbs are extended, and Swarup Damodar said, that's him. Mahaprabhu, as described by both Kaviraj Goswami and Vrindavan Das Thakur, exhibited ecstatic symptoms of love of God that they say, you won't find these anywhere in the Vedas. This is beyond. The exhibition of ecstasy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Jagannath Puri, something very esoteric. So they went and retrieved Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's waterlogged body, and they chanted the holy name, they cleaned his body from the sand, and Mahaprabhu then came to external consciousness and began describing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan that he had been absorbed in while he was floating in the ocean. Did the devotees, one Vaishnav in that room at night, Shankar Pandit. He became known and famous as the pillow of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because they wanted somebody in the room to guard the Lord. Because even when he didn't escape, in the madness of separation from Krishna, he would rub his lotus face against the walls, and they would find his face injured by rubbing against the walls in separation from Krishna. So to protect Mahaprabhu from getting out or to his mad performances within that room, Shankar Pandit every night would go in, massage the lotus feet of the Lord, hold them on his lap, and make sure that he was okay. Shankar Pandit, the pillow of the Lord. So all these pastimes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his appearance in Navadvip as a young student, his taking initiation, and then coming to Jagannath Puri, he went to South India, he went to Vrindavan. Then he spent the latter part of his life simply absorbed in the Leela of Krishna in Vrindavan, in separation from Krishna, and relished those times with Gadadhar Pandit, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Jagannath Puri Dham is known as Vipralamba Kshetra, place of intense separation from Krishna, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt it. And actually the whole pastime, as we discussed the other night, of Ratha Yatra is an enactment of the residents of Vrindavan coming to Kurukshetra and meeting Krishna after a long time and seeing Krishna there as a king, as he had in Dwarka adopted the royal dress, and then pining for him and inviting him, actually beseeching him, come back to Vrindavan in this mood of separation from him. And the form of Jagannath that we see is explained by great Vaishnavas that this is his wide eyes, his deformed body. This is all Vipralamba ecstasy. That Krishna feels when he hears about the separation of the devotees in Vrindavan from himself. So the whole land of Jagannath Puri, you can feel it when you come into Jagannath Puri. When you drive down the street, there's a huge murti of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu right in the middle of town. And there's something about Jagannath Puri with the ocean and then the gigantic temple. You can see day or night the huge flag flapping in the breeze above the temple. It's the most noticeable of all landmarks that you can see from every direction. You go there and take darshan of Lord Jagannath, and if you're not qualified to go in the temple, then you can circumambulate, chant the Brahma Sanghita as you walk around, or from a distance, anywhere, you can offer prayers and obeisances to the chakra, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Haridas Thakur, who wasn't allowed to go in the Jagannath temple. He's the Namacharya, and they wouldn't let him in because he came from a Muslim background. So Mahaprabhu used to go see Haridas Thakur every day. So people would say, well, he can't go in the temple, but actually Jagannath, in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was coming to see him because Haridas Thakur was so exalted. So there's also the place of Haridas Thakur in Jagannath Puri, and you can go to his place under the special tree there where Haridas Thakur sat and chanted, the Siddhabakul tree. And you can remember the Nahamacharya and how dear he was to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And also, Mahaprabhu and his associates used to take a dip in the ocean. In fact, many times you'll see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that they bathed in the ocean. And sometimes they would sport in the ocean also. So that's another feature of Jagannath Puri, that you can go walk down. Usually we stay at a place that's about 1.5 blocks away from the ocean. And after your parikram in the morning, you can go see Tota Gopinath temple in the morning for Mangalartik. And then later you can go to the Purushottam Mat, which was started by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. There's a lot of history there. There's the Govardhan Hill in the form of sand dune that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ran for. And then later in the afternoon, you can take a dip in the ocean. Does that sound good? Why not? Take a dip in the ocean and come back refreshed and then ready for more hearing and chanting in the holy Dham of Jagannath Puri. Then, of course, there's the Rath Yatra, which is apparent there, even when it's not Rath Yatra time. The Grand Road is gigantic, open space, so that Jagannath Puri is all meant just for this pastime of traveling down, the Lord traveling down Grand Road. And lastly, I just mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all his pastimes were didactic. In Jagannath Puri, he and his followers cleansed the Gudicha temple together. This is one of the most joyful and also instructive of pastimes. Is everyone okay? Just think Jagannath Puri. That's what the air's like outside there. You need what? You need air? We don't need air. We can live without air, right? Okay. So, last point is about the Gudicha temple. The Gudicha temple represents Vrindavan. It's the place where they take the deity of Jagannath during the time that he feigns okay, you work it out. But it does feel better already, I think. We have nothing against air. It's a place that Jagannath goes to when he leaves his palace, leaves the goddess of fortune. Today actually is Hara Panchami, the day the goddess of fortune sends her servants down to harass the servants of Lord Jagannath. And there's quite a kerfuffle that takes place. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, before the Rath Yatra, goes with all of his associates to this Gundicha Mandir, which you can also visit in Jagannath Puri. And there they ask the temple commander for all the tools for cleaning the temple. And he says, "You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you shouldn't be cleaning." And Mahaprabhu said, "No, that's what I do." And so all of his associates and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu collect thousands of pots of water. And they form a chain and they start passing the buckets of water. First, they sweep the temple. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is watching all the devotees. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is cleaning himself, is also cleaning the temple. And his pile of straw and dust is larger than anyone's. He's working harder. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu notices all the other devotees, and the ones that are getting larger piles of straw and dust, he gives some appreciation to, and he says, "You should teach the others how to make their piles higher." So they take all the straw and dust out of the temple. Is everyone okay? It's better, right? Okay. Air to the brain helps. And then he cleans it twice, 3 times, and then they clean outside around the temple. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur tells about this pastime, how important it is. Because the temple is representative of our heart. Our heart is the altar upon which we're trying to invite the Supreme Personality of Godhead to sit down. Bhakti Devi, the goddess, once one of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's devotees described how you're inviting the goddess Bhakti Devi to come sit down. You're not going to ask her to sit next to the witches of material desire and attachment, who you're allowing to stay there within the courtyard of your heart. Nor do you want a filthy place to put. If you install your deity, you clean the whole place. You make sure the altar's completely clean, everything clean for the Lord to sit down. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, process of devotional service means cleansing the heart. Cheto darpana marjanam. So there's no other material, there's no desire left in the heart except to serve Krishna. Then you can install Krishna as a deity on the throne of your heart. Then Prabhupada says, when you do that, on that day, when you actually install the Lord in your heart, you can hold a festival and feed everybody and celebrate the fact that you've now installed the Supreme Personality of God in your heart. But the preparation work has to be there to cleanse the heart. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed in Jagannath Puri both the very esoteric aspect of devotional service and the very practical aspects of devotional service. So being here in this home today, which is our Jagannath Puri depot, we can remember all the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which are fully accessible to us through the Sankirtan movement. The fact that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Vrindavan is the supreme abode wouldn't mean anything to us unless they were accessible, which is the point Radhika Raman Prabhu made when we were talking in Utah, is something has to be sublime and also accessible. Because if it's sublime and you can't get it, doesn't mean anything to you. And if it's not sublime, if it's as ordinary as a gas station, although gas is up a little bit, and you can get it anywhere, it doesn't mean anything just because it's accessible. Both things have to be there. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is both the most sublime and accessible, and he's mostly accessible through his Dhams and his holy names. So we have both of those things today, as we've created a holy Dham here in this place due to your devotional lifestyle. Hare Krishna. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadraji ki jai, Shri Rathayatra ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Haribol. Do you have any points you want to make?
I was remembering when you were talking about how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would meet the devotees, and they would say he was the epitome of conceit. He was so proud, and they would try to avoid him if they saw him coming, even like obviously, just see him turn around, go across. and he was he with Mukunda? He was with Mukunda, and he asked why one of the devotees went away, and he said, I know why. It's because Mahaprabhu said this. He said, I know why. It's because I always talk about mundane things, about grammar and rules and things like that. He said, but I will show them. I will become the greatest Vaishnav. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva will come to take my darshan. I just thought that was such a nice way of letting them know without letting them know. He did that quite often.
That reminded me also of the Vedic Kirtan pastime, because when you were mentioning, I think something about what you said reminded me that when Maharaj Prataparuja, who was unacquainted, was getting acquainted to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and didn't know all the devotees, they went on a high roof, and when the devotees were coming from Navadvip to join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarbhambacharya was there pointing out all of the great devotees from Navadvip, along with his nephew, who is named Gopinathacharya. Thank you. It was with Gopinathacharya. And as they saw the devotees, Pratapuja Maharaj was saying that I've never heard anything like this, the kirtan that was coming from the party. And Gopinathacharya said, this is what's called Prem Sankirtan. So the sound vibration is the emanation of the prema from the hearts of the devotees. And then each one of the devotees who came in, Pratapuja Maharaj wanted to know who they were. So Gopinath was pointing out who they were and why they were being honored in a certain way. And this pastime is very relishable because it's one of the heartfelt practices of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to take care of all of his devotees, to honor the devotees. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was praised, oftentimes he said, everything I learned, it was from Sarvabhaumacharya. I learned everything from Haridas Thakur. He was, in fact, the author Kaviraj Goswami says, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu praised his devotees, it was as if he had 4 heads or many heads. He was speaking so lovingly about all his devotees and all their qualities. And this is one of the hallmarks of the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially in Jagannath Puri, how the devotees would come together and meet and how the devotees would relish each other's company. So this is coming together on 4th of July for relishing the company of the devotees is one of the special pastimes in Jagannath Puri also. Hare Krishna. Does anybody else have any points you want to make before we have Kirtan and Rath Yatra? Yes.
I had a I had a question about why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always worshipped, not as a sannyasi, but like before he took sannyas.
Yeah, it's a good question. I slightly alluded to it earlier, and that is that the devotees they pine for him in Navadvip because they could worship him as a householder and bring him all kinds of special treats. When he left Navadvip, he became this austere sannyasi. Even there's a pastime when one of his devotees, is it Jagannath who brought him the oil? Huh? Jagannath Pandit, who was very insistent that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a sannyasi, he wanted it to be comfortable. So he brought him some scented oil. And when he brought the oil, then he told Govinda, give this to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Govinda was his personal servant, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's. So he brought it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said, I cannot use that oil. Everyone will say I'm a Dari sannyasi, which means like somebody who just took up sannyas to enjoy life. And he said, these Dari sannyasis, like they keep hair and they also oil their hair and it's like perfumed. So I can't use that oil, perfumed oil. People smell it on me and they'll say like, "What? Well, you're a Dari sannyasi." So to take it back, give it to the pujaris and let them burn it in the lamps in the temple. They can use it for that. So Govinda brought it back to Jagannath and said to Mahaprabhu, said, give it back to you. He doesn't want it. And then a little later, Jagannath was carrying the oil and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned it to him and he said, I have not brought this oil for anybody. And he smashed it in the courtyard and the oil went everywhere. And then Jagannath went into his room and closed the door and wouldn't come out for 3 days until Mahaprabhu begged him and said, please come out and could you cook for me? Because he didn't want Jagannath to fast. So the point is, when Mahaprabhu left Navadvip, the devotees were trying to get him to lie in a bed. They took silk cotton and they shredded it. They put it in a little, it's like mattress, because Mahaprabhu just wanted to be a sannyasi, sleep on the floor. And he objected to all these things. In Navadvip, they remembered him as being there with the goddess of fortune, and they were able to worship him in this non-austere form. And so when they worship him on the altar, they pine for him and they remember him in that form in Navadvip. And they're averse to the idea of the form of austerity and sannyas because they want to see the supreme enjoyer enjoy and not be renounced. Any other points about Jagannath Puri or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
Once when we were having darshan of Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, an older lady came, and I was there with one other devotee, and she was talking to Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, so I couldn't understand her. She was speaking Bengali. I don't remember. I don't know if one of you devotees was with me, but I asked, "What is she saying?" And he said, "Oh, she said, where is your hair? You didn't wear your hair today." Like she was upset about it, and now I'm thinking maybe that's why.
It's a very casual atmosphere, like a hometown in Navadvip. When they come see Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu, everyone feels very personal connection with Mahaprabhu there. Other points? Yes.
Oh, I was just remembering, like today in the morning, we were discussing about Lord Shri Krishna, how merciful he is, the Ahobakiyam verse. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is even more merciful. So, I mean, just how much more merciful he can be. Like, we have that song, right? Tribhuvanna Palana Kripaya Lesham. Like, just all the universe can be blessed by just a fraction of his mercy. So, nobody is as good as Mahaprabhu.
So Mayapur, Vrindavan, the different dhams are non-different. And in Vrindavan, it's Madhurya. And it's all sweetness, but in Mayapur, Navadvip, it's called Audorya. It's like generosity, and it's overflowing sweetness, like a container that's overflowing and it's flowing out to everybody else. So the sweetness becomes enhanced because it's shared with everybody. That's Mahaprabhu's mood. Anyone else? Yes.
I heard this in some class. It seems Shivaram Swami completed the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he was saying, and devotees were asking, what is the thing that strikes you? And Maharaj was jokingly saying, Mahaprabhu and the devotees, everyone ate a lot of prasadam. Because this was constantly described throughout, like how they would serve Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu would in turn personally serve the devotees. He wanted to make sure, like, this person likes this, and Mahaprabhu would serve that specifically to the devotee. He would remember what everyone likes. He was so personal with the devotees.
Yes. And the devotees were always trying to feed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well, and knew which preparations he liked the best. And still, in Jagannath Puri, our acharyas have said each dham is characterized by something very special. Like Vrindavan, it's the Raj, the dust there, like we got when we walked in to Vrindavan. And in Jagannath Puri, it's prasadam. Of course, Lord Jagannath takes prasadam 56 times a day, and sometimes with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even in Navadvip, when he went to the house of Advaita Acharya after he was tricked to come there rather than going to Vrindavan, and Advaita Acharya invited him in to feed him. And Mahaprabhu had just taken sannyas. He said, I'll just take little. Just a little liquid vegetable, nothing too much. And Advaita Acharya was feeding him more and more. Mahaprabhu said, I can't eat all this. And Advaita Acharya said, I know who you are. In Jagannath Puri, you eat 56 times a day. Don't tell me you can't eat. And in fact, in Jagannath Puri, there's many prasadam pastimes. For instance, I already told about the Raghavera Jali, either here or over there. And also it's mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that the devotees that always bring offerings, they'd cook something and they'd bring it. And so who would they give it to? They give it to Govinda. Govinda was actually a godbrother of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was sent by Srila Ishvara Puri. Govinda had been the servant of Srila Ishvara Puri, and then he had come and, on the order of Ishvara Puri, to serve the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and take care of him. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I can't take service from a godbrother. But then he assessed the situation. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya quoted from the Srimad Bhagavatam and said, actually, the order of the spiritual master is absolute. You have to follow it. So he gave that order. You should take it. So Govinda used to take the offerings of the devotees and bring it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for a long time, he'd just say, no, just put it aside for now. This is cooked prasadam. And all kinds of things, creams, bananas, fruits, things that the devotees had lovingly prepared. So every day, Govinda would bring something, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, put it aside. And so this room started to fill up. You can imagine Jagannath Puri is not the coolest place on earth. Not like they had refrigerator trucks. It's just in some room there. And weeks were going by, and the room was filling up. And all the devotees would come to Govinda, and they say, did he like my preparation? And Govinda's saying, yes. Because what are you going to tell him? These things go on with the servants. Once Hansaduta was serving Prabhupada, and all these people after programs, they'd all come up to Prabhupada and say, can you take an invitation, come to our house? And then he'd say, you talk to my assistant. As they go to Hansaduta, he'd probably say, yes, I'll come. You go arrange it with Hansaduta. And then, of course, they couldn't handle the volume because it was dozens of people. How are you going to go to everyone's house? So Hansaduta would tell him, no, he can't come. And they'd become furious because no, Swamiji said he's coming. And he said, no, he can't come. There's no space. So Hansaduta, one night after the program, he said to Prabhupada, I have this problem. All these people are coming, and you're telling them yes. And then there's no space. I can't tell them to come. And Prabhupada said, it is my business to tell them yes. It is your business to tell them no. And so Govinda was like that. He was taking yes, good. Mahaprabhu loved it. Meanwhile, he knew he didn't need it. So he was feeling very bad. And he went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he said, my Lord, I'm telling all the devotees lies. I'm telling you're eating these things and that you enjoyed it. And Mahaprabhu said, okay, bring it all. He said, bring it all. Yeah, bring it all right now. So Mahaprabhu sat down, and Govinda for hours was bringing him all the prasadam out of the room, and it was as fresh as the day that they had brought it. And Mahaprabhu kept eating and eating and eating, and then finally he goes, is there anything left? And he said, nothing left. So, very well. Shastra Prada.
Hare Krishna. So recently, over the last couple of days, I've been reflecting a little bit about the ironicness of reality sometimes. And when you were telling the story yesterday, Guru Maharaj.
That could be the name of your memoir. The ironicness of reality. Go ahead.
Guru Maharaj, you were talking yesterday about different pastimes of Mahaprabhu, and today also there's this. I was just thinking, I was talking to Tejas just yesterday, and I was telling him on the phone that Mahaprabhu is such there's a term that a lot of people in my generation use called a troll, someone who fools around all the time. And I was thinking that this is exactly who he is. When he was telling I'm forgetting the name of the devotee who was wearing deer skin.
Paramananda Puri.
Yes, and he was saying, oh, I don't see him here. The one I know doesn't wear deer skin. And even though he was right there, it was so funny. And I was thinking that there's this line Prabhupada writes in the Damodar Leela and Krishna book, that the person that all of the yogis have been meditating and searching after for so many lifetimes is now being chased by his mother. And I was thinking, that same Supreme Personality of Godhead who everyone is somehow searching for he was there's the pastime of Krishna, he looks at himself, a reflection of himself, he's like, wow, I'm so beautiful, amazing. And this feeling that he has of, how does Radharani love me so much? What's going on here? And that same Supreme Personality of Godhead has now come as Mahaprabhu to enact all of these pastimes. It's so ironic that these yogis are searching after the Supreme Truth so hard for so many lifetimes. And then when they finally reach the Supreme Truth, they're like, oh, this is the Supreme Truth? Wow. And it's so funny because it goes from something so serious to something that has a lot of serious depth, but on the surface it's so lively and so sweet.
Yeah, and of course, okay, Srivas Prabhu, because you had something right. Just that Mahaprabhu's pastimes contain various emotions. Some of them there's levity, obviously times of when Mahaprabhu, I mean, even in his youth as a child, he used to go around and wreak havoc in the neighborhood. People had outdoor plumbing, meant outhouses. Mahaprabhu would tie their doors shut and then wait outside to see how they couldn't get out. And he would dress up like a little bull with one of his friends, and he would go and destroy the banana orchards and stuff as a bull. When people would come running after him, he'd run away. He'd ditch school, go to the Ganga, and then pretend like, through his mystic potency, he had just come from school with ink on his hands, and his father was hard to chastise him. But there were also very serious ways in which he conducted himself as an example to everyone else. We know the very severe story of Junior Haridas and how he banished him for a slight impropriety, and other ways in which, as you mentioned with Paramananda Puri, of course, that was a little bit of levity, but at the same time, it was a serious instruction. But it just shows all the ways that Mahaprabhu could teach. I'll just say that pastime really quick because I mentioned it the other day, and it's a very instructive. Paramananda Puri was a famous sannyasi of the time, and also was a godbrother of Srila Ishvara Puri that Mahaprabhu revered. And so in Puri, the devotees came to Mahaprabhu and said, Paramananda Puri is here. Should we bring him here? And Mahaprabhu said, he is on the level of my spiritual master, because he's my spiritual master's godbrother. So therefore, we should go to him. I should go to him, not him come to me. So they brought him to Paramananda Puri, and Paramananda Puri was into meditation, and he had taken to wearing a deer skin. So Mahaprabhu, they said, here's Paramananda Puri. Mahaprabhu said, I do not see Paramananda Puri. Paramananda Puri would not wear a deer skin. And then it occurred to Paramananda Puri that he was wearing the deer skin out of a sense of false prestige, like I'm a big yogi. So he went and changed and he came back, and Mahaprabhu accepted him. So Mahaprabhu cared about details. He noticed things, and even when he was holding school and he was Nimai Pandit, and some student came to school without his tilak on, Mahaprabhu instructed him in front of everybody because he knew he didn't do his puja that morning. So he said, go home, put on your tilak, come back. So he had all these ways in which he taught people. Prabhu?
I think going back to your point of worshipping him as a householder, when Ramchandra Puri criticized Mahaprabhu and he reduced his eating by 1/4, that was like a big stone on the devotees. What to speak of? Just wanted to add to that point.
That's a good point. They were disturbed that Mahaprabhu wasn't eating. I mean, that's the preoccupation of the devotees. They want to feed Krishna. They want to serve Krishna. They want to give Krishna. Actually makes sense because we're part and parcel of Krishna. When we realize he's the soul of our soul, as much as I'm concerned about taking care of myself now, and it's a lot, when I realize the soul of my soul, then how much will I be preoccupied with taking care of Krishna? It's actually reality. And they want Krishna to enjoy. That's real enjoyment, is seeing Krishna enjoy. Like on Janmashtami, you can't have any more fun than we have on Janmashtami, right? And we fast all day long. We don't eat anything, and all we do is service from morning to night, right? That's all we do. And then if you ask anybody at 12:30 midnight, after you've been awake all day, you went to Mangalartik at 4:30, you got up at 3, you didn't eat anything all day, and all you did was serve, chant, and you say, how are you feeling? And everyone's just in bliss. Nobody's saying, I'm hungry and I don't like people. They're all happy, and just like everything's fine. I've mentioned before in Govardhan, around Govardhan Hill, you see people do Dandavat Parikram. And if you go around Govardhan and you notice Dandavat Parikram is a lot of work. It's like an athletic event, to say the least. You fall down, you pick up, go down, and you see whole families there, kids doing it with their families, husband, wife, even very rotund people. And every one of them is happy and feeling some kind of ecstasy. Politicians come there. He had his bodyguards around him with big machine guns, and he was going around doing the parikram. So our happiness comes from satisfying Krishna's senses, because we're part and parcel of Krishna. So Prahlad Maharaj said, it's just like this. When you look in the mirror and you see your reflection, if you decorate your face, then the reflection starts to look good. And similarly, we're part and parcel of Krishna. So if you decorate Krishna, then you become decorated. If you try to decorate yourself, it doesn't work. But if you take care of Krishna, you satisfy Krishna, then we become satisfied. Okay, one more point. Is it possible for us to sing the Jagannath Ashtakam? But how will everyone see it? I didn't have the wherewithal. Because everyone has a phone? Okay, I guess that's what we'll do then. Oh, are we doing a Rath Yatra around the neighborhood? Is that what we're doing? What's the program? I should ask. Kirtana Prasadam. Same old, same old. Oh, thank you. So you got that? You can go right into that. There's at KK songs. I like KK songs. They got everything right there. It's not fancy, but the shlokas are right. Sometimes you get some strange aberrations at other websites. But you can put in Jagannath, you probably already got it. Does everyone have it? Of course you have it. Pardon me? Would you do that? We can do call and response on this, hey? B flat. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, call and response. I'm going to go slower. That's fast. Kadachit kalindita tavipina sangi takaravo. Everyone. Mudhabhirinariva dana kamalasvada madhupa. Brahma Shambhu Brahma Marapati Ganesha Chittapado Jagannath Swami Nayana Pattagami Bhavatu Me. One more time. Jagannath Swami Nayana Pattagami Bhavatu Me. Mahambode stire ganaka ruchire nilashakare. Oh, sorry. It's all good. Buje savye venum shirasi shiki picham katitate. Dukulam netrante sahachara kataksham bidadhate. Sada Srimad Vrindavana Vasati Lila Parichayo. Jagannath Swami Nana Pattagami Bhavatu Me. Jagannath Swami Nayana Pattagami Bhavatu Me. Mahambode stire kanaka ruchire nilashakare. Vasan prasadanta sahaja bala bhadrena balina. Subhadra Madhyasta Sakala Sura Seva Vasarado. Jagannath Swami Nayana Pattagami Bhavatu Me. Jai Jagannath Swami. Jagannath Swami Nayana Pattagami Bhavatu Me. Kripa Paravarasa Jala Jala Dashri Niruchiro. Ramavani Ramaspuradam Malapanke Ruhamukha. Sure Surendra Aradya Shruti Ganashika Gita Charito Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu Me Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu Me Ratarudho Gakshan Pati Milita Bhudeva Patalai Suti Pradhurbhavam Pratipadamupakanya Sadaya Daya Sindhur Bandhu Sakala Jagatam Sindhu Sutaya Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu Me Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu Me Para Brahma Pida Kuvalaya Dulot Pulanayano Nivasini Ladra Nihita Charano Nantashirasi Rasanando Radha Sarasa Vapura Lingana Sukho Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu Me Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu Me Naivayache Rajam Na Chakana Kamanikya Vibhavam Nayache Hamram Yam Sakala Janakam Yam Vadavadhum Sadakale Kale Pramata Patina Gita Charito Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu Me Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu Me Haratam Samsaram Drutata Namasaram Surapate Haratam papanam vitatim vaparam jaravapate Aho dinenate lihitacharano nishchitamidam Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavtu Me Jagannath Ashtakam Punyam Yapatet Prayata Suchi Sarva Papa Vishudhatma Vishnu Lokam Sakachati Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Sukeshri Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama One. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. More cowbell. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Haribo! Hari Hari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. One more time now. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Do you know the Hare Krishna tune? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. One more time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Jagannath Swami. Part two. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Back to part one. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One more time, everybody. Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. One more time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jagannath Swami ki, Shri Jagannath Rath Yatra ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Jagannath Prasadam ki, Gaur Premanande, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada.
Thank you, Vaisesika Maharaj and Niraka Maharaj. Your schedule is busy and still you took out the time and give us this rare opportunity uh, to come and get your association. Just want to share one story. 3 years back, when you came, we had sent the invite list, and we didn't realize that how many people can fit, but we just sent. And in front of your chair, we had kept a table, and one of the kid was trying to enter the table just to get the space. And then you said, just move the table, and then you said that this place should expand. We were having the class there, and during the COVID, we tried to build this so that more devotees can fit.
I think it's unavoidable that this place will now be called Jagannath Puri. And it's because of the amazing service that both of you do here to outreach, bring in people to the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath, and how you're maintaining such a high standard. We all have witnessed all the sacrifices you've made and the steadiness with which you've connected yourself. And all the Vaishnavas are attracted to coming here and being in this special house. And if there's a damaged, broken pot somewhere, we can drink from it. Hare Krishna.
As Vaisesika Maharaj was saying, that for Vrindavan is Vrajraj, and for Jagannath Puri it's Prasadam. So we made a humble attempt to make a feast. And just to make the entire Prasadam easier, we have the Sadhu Sangha head, Govind Charan Prabhu, who is managing the serving. So devotees have to just go from here and enter the garage. There you use Prasadam, and there Govind Charan Prabhu will be there. And then you can just take all the items that you like, and then you have to just come again in this hall, and you can just have Prasadam.
Haribo. Sharirat Vijaja Jodendriya Taheka Jibe Pele Sagade Tarma Jivayati Loba Moisu Durmati Take Jeta Katita Shangshahe Krishna Bodha Doyamo Gori Bade Jihwajai Shra Prasad Anna Dilobai Shayanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Guna Gao Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Ma Prasade Govinde Nam Brahmadi Vaishnave Sapa Punyavatam Rajan Vishvaso Navijayate Prasade Sarva Dukhanam Anirasyo Pajayate Prasana Chetaso Yashu Kudiparya Pratistate Tvayopa Bhukta Sanganda Vasalankar Charchita Uchishta Bojino Dasya Stavamayan Jayemahi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasadiki Jagannath Prasad ki Gaur Premanande Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Please come take prasadam. Hari Bol.